Ask anyone who grew up with a Nintendo Entertainment System in their home what their top 5 favorite games were, and there's about a 99% chance that Super Mario Bros. 3 is on that list. The game is just so close to being a perfect platformer that it's gained legendary status among gamers of all stripes. So, if you were going to modify a Mario title in the hopes of somehow improving it, Super Mario Bros. 3 is probably the one game you should stay away from. Apparently not everyone feels that way though, because here we have Monk Brothers, a Super Mario Bros. 3 hack with all new levels, enemies, and of course, Mario as a monk. When you first boot it up, it's actually surprisingly well done. The ROM hacker tweaked the title image, even taking the time to create the drop shadow effect, and then switched the number 3 for a monk-like figure that just happens to shine, just like the 3 did. The person that modified the game even gave themselves a little shout out here as well, so whoever 1000 Paul is, we have him to thank. Why is Mario a monk? Well, there's really no good answer to that question. It seems like the creator just decided that if he was going to remake one of the best platformers of all time, he better change the main character, and making Mario a monk looks like it was actually pretty easy to do. Toss the hat, the hair, smooth out his clothing a bit, and bam! Pure monk Mario goodness. As for the other non-enemy characters, not a whole lot has changed. The princess is still a princess, and the various royalty are all essentially unchanged, with the exception of the toads, which are now only sometimes toadstools. The rest of the time, they're just tiny, pale creatures that vaguely resemble monks. The enemies in the game are another story entirely. The game wastes absolutely no time in showing you just how much things have changed. From the very first level, you're met with a bunch of completely overhauled creatures. Now, rather than Goombas and Koopas, we have a lot of what looks like tiny Goombas inside of little glass domes and even vehicles. Other enemies seem to be completely new, and I honestly can't tell what they originally were. Like this. What is that thing? And what was it originally? I have absolutely no idea, but it's easy to kill, so I guess I won't complain too much. One of my favorite changes is the new piranha plants, or should I say robot death claws. I have no idea what kind of a mind would think up something like this, but to be honest, the sprites are actually kind of impressive. It's clear the creator took some time actually figuring out how he wanted the enemies to look, giving foes like the piranha plants specific colors, and even turning the fire-breathing plant enemies into some kind of a laser eye thing. If I saw these sprites out of context, I might actually think they were pulled from a Mega Man game, which is something of a compliment. Unfortunately, the quality of these revamped enemies is totally negated by the new level design. One thing that made the original Super Mario Bros. So great was its ability to make you feel like you were taking a journey. You started in the grassy plains, traveled to the desert and an island chain, an ice world, and beyond. Each world theme was broken up by occasional castles and dungeons, and the whole thing felt, for lack of a better term, epic. Super Monk Bros. Has exactly none of that charm. Right from the start, it's clear that none of the world maps even matter. You're thrown into a grassy water level, and then a desert, and then a whatever this is supposed to be, back to back to back for no good reason. It's like the creator just got bored working on one kind of level and decided to do something completely different every single time. That is, except for the dungeons, which there are a lot of. There are areas as soon as the second world map where you'll just be playing dungeon levels one after another. This might have been fine if the levels were actually fun, but to say this is a mixed bag would be giving it far too much credit. I'm all about a challenge, but some of the levels are so incredibly confusing that I can't imagine beating them on the first try. One in particular really got my blood boiling. You have to perform the following series of feats in this specific order. First, be small, because being anything but tiny will ruin steps you have to complete later. Head to the top of the level. Hit the P switch. Run back to the start of the level. Run over to the Goomba shoe and pray that he manages to jump out before time runs out. Lure him as far to the right as you can without allowing him to actually jump down. Jump up before he jumps past you. Lure him back in the other direction and get him to jump on top of the question mark blocks. Then attack him from below and steal the shoe so you can proceed. I'm not kidding when I say I spent a solid 15 minutes trying different things out before I even realized what you had to do and how it could be done. The best part is that if you do anything in the wrong order, you can't reset it. Waste the P switch? Well, I guess you're gonna die because there's no way to proceed without pulling it off. Accidentally hit all the question mark blocks before you even realize you needed to free the Goomba shoe? Sorry, no other way to get the shoe and proceed. I get what the ROM hacker was trying to do here. Puzzles are great, and feeling like you came up with something unique and challenging is awesome. But that's not what any of this is. Puzzles that you can permanently fail without even realizing it are just lame, plain and simple. Oh, and I don't know what's going on with these sprites, but they seem fine for a while, and then they randomly turn into something absolutely horrifying. What is that, and why am I riding inside of it? What happened to these little wrench-throwing mole guys here? Oh, just kidding, that was apparently a question mark block. Gotcha. It's really a shame because there's some pretty interesting ideas here. One level from the second world map sticks you in a seriously overwhelming maze of pipes that can take forever to navigate. I actually came close to running out of time on this level because I spent so much time trying to figure out where each route would take me. It was fun, until... Okay, that's just mean. You have an entire map full of pipes that you have to travel down, so obviously when you see another pipe, what are you gonna think? You're gonna think you have to go down it. Nope. Sorry. That's kind of how this entire game goes. Interesting ideas and neat graphical changes totally overshadowed by purely satanic level design. It's far more frustrating than it is actually challenging. Ultimately, the game is playable and occasionally enjoyable simply because the base game was so incredibly good that even a ROM hacker couldn't completely mess it up. And that's more of a compliment to Nintendo than anything. Suffice it to say, there's very little reason to even bother playing this version. Unless for some reason you just really, really want to see Mario as a monk.